Hi once again. Today we are going to discuss the graphic interpretation type of questions that are a part of the data insight section of the GMAT focus edition. The way we are going to approach this session is we are first of all going to talk about how do this question look like, the basic strategies that you need to keep in mind while solving these questions, and then we are going to solve one question demonstrating how I can solve these questions in the most efficient manner, that is in quick time, and still get the answers correct. This is how the questions look like. As the name suggests, there will be obviously some visual representation of the data. So a very simple pie chart, line chart, bar graph, Venn diagram or scattered diagrams is what you get in these questions. Now, obviously, since you are applying to GMAT and you are a graduate, you must have encountered this type of diagrams in your daily life or maybe in your graduation. Anywhere you see, there will be some representation or some data that you have seen in terms of these diagrams. If by chance you don't know any one of these 4 or 5 type of diagrams, just do a simple Google search and you will be able to understand that these diagrams are very common and you have definitely seen them in your day-to-day life somewhere. Okay, and very easy to understand. That is what is the most important part. Okay, now based on the data from these questions, you will have to fill up 2 blanks in 1 sentence or 2 sentences as it is divided about. Okay, there will be a drop down menu just next to that blank and you can choose the correct option that you think, and based on that 2 blanks you will be able to get the answer. Now the whole point is you will get the credit only if both the options, that is both the blanks, are marked correctly. Let's look at how diagrammatic the picture looks like. This is a typical diagram based graphic interpretation question in data insights. As you can see, this is a line chart. It has got 2 axes. There is a left axis, that is the vertical axis, and a horizontal axis. Some interpretation or some data given in this question. There is a paragraph above which explains you what is this diagram all about and what is the utility of this diagram, followed by, as you can see, there are 2 sentences and there are 2 blanks. Now obviously there will be a drop down menu against each blank. Since this slide we could not arrange for a drop down menu, so I have just kept the options in a parenthesis. But yes, when you do a real life GMAT or a mock, you will get this data in a drop down menu. This is how the diagram will look like. Now let's first of all talk about what are the specific strategies that we need to keep in mind before we start solving a question. Remember, the text above the graph explains the graph. For example, in the previous diagram that you saw, it will actually explain that what is the interrelationship between the horizontal axis and the vertical axis. It is very important to read it. So therefore, never ever miss to read out the text about the graphic. The second thing that you need to do is spend around 30 to 45 seconds understanding the graphic and understanding the interrelationship between the 2 axes, or if it is a pie chart, what are the specific parts in that pie chart. Is it given in degrees, is it given in percentages, and so on and so forth. Before you start solving the question, make sure you see all the options in the answer menu. If it is about 1 sentence, then check all the options in at least one of the blanks. If it is about 2 sentences and therefore 2 things that you will have to establish, then very clearly you will have to check all the options before you start solving both of the questions. You will be very easily be able to eliminate at least 2 out of the 4 or 5 options because they will be sounding very illogical. Okay. Now this is the last part. Don't rush into calculate. Okay. If you rush into calculate, you will be wasting a lot of time because most of these questions actually do not require calculation. The calculations are actually very easy and you will be able to do it with simple addition, subtraction, or maybe a plain simple division, and therefore estimate is good enough. If you rush into calculate, do it only if it is unavoidable. Let's look at the question that we are talking about and how to solve it. Remember, it is a typical GMAT question, and the GMAT questions most of the time come to this difficulty level or this complexity only. Okay. Those who are watching this video, I would suggest that you take a 30 seconds pause and read the whole text and the diagram, and post that you can start the video once again so that we can now solve the question along with you. All right, let's see what does it talk about. It says scientists, health professionals and life insurance agents are interested in examining the percentage of people in a population who will live to a certain age. That means we are talking about the relationship between percentage of population who die interrelated with age of the person. One way to measure this information is to look at the percentage of population who have died after a certain number of years. The following graph displays that result. So now if you spend some time on this graph, you'll automatically understand that we are talking about an interrelationship between age and the percentage of people who have died. For example, if you look at around 60, and you don't really need to draw this diagram per se, if you understand that here in the horizontal scale, we are actually talking about age of people, years since the birth, and in the vertical we are talking about percentage of people who have died. Okay, so this is not about people who are still living, this is people who have died. So for example, if I now relate to this point on the graph, which might interrelate to 60, then at 60 years of age, 16% of the people have already died, which will mean that 84% of the people are still living. Okay, very simple calculation. 16% of the people at the age of 60, if you look at the all the people who are at the age of 60, out of them today, whoever would have been 60, out of them 60% people have already died, and therefore 84% of the people who had been at the age of 60 today are living. Okay, simple. 100 minus 16, 64. That is the interrelationship between the diagrams. Now, therefore, let's try to solve this question. The first graph talks about approximately, then a blank, percent of population lives at the age of 80 years. Okay. The second question is a person who is a member of the study population will still have an 80% chance of being alive at a maximum age of. So, two definitely from the diagram question, but not really directly interrelated with each other, and therefore we'll have to deal with both the sentences independently. Let's look at the first sentence. It says how much percentage of the population lives to the age of 80 years. Okay, so first of all we will target 80 years of age. Okay, let's look at 80 years of age. This is 80 years of age. Okay, so therefore when I interrelate it to the graph, it is, if you draw a simple estimation straight line, okay, you don't have to really worry about a scale or something. This is how it will go. So this is 80 years of age. Now if I interrelate it to here, approximately, it talks about some around 60% of the people have died. Okay, this amount of estimation is good enough. That means 40% of the people will be living. Now take into account obviously that the scale that you are drawing may not be exact. So it may not be 60, it may be 58 or 55 or 65 or something like that. And therefore the answer will be anywhere between 45 to 55. Okay, it cannot be less than 45, it cannot be more than 55. And therefore when you choose, very clearly you will be able to choose the answer as 40, because that is essentially the closest, the mean of the range that you have decided for yourself, because it cannot be less than 45, so 10 is ruled out anyway. As you said that 60 ही लग रहा है, but थोड़ा सा अगर आगे पीछे होता भी है तो फिर 42, 45 हो सकता है, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं होगा, right? And therefore 60 भी नहीं हो सकता, looks too far away, and therefore the answer is 40. That is good enough as an estimation. You don't really need to calculate. Okay, let's look at the second question. Now this is where the time strategy will play a very important role. It says a person who is a member of the study population will still have an 80% chance of being alive at around a maximum age of. Now the key word is maximum age of. Okay, so when we are talking about the maximum age, we have to start actually from the higher ages and not from the lower ages, because we will be actually trying to find out the maximum age. Now we already know from the last question that 80 the question we had said that 80 years ki age mein the number of people living is approximately 40, जबकि हमें चाहिए 80% chance of living. So therefore 80 is automatically ruled out. We will start with the next one, that is 55. Okay, now let's look at where is 55. This is 40, this is 60, so bang in the middle will be 50. Okay, 55 will be somewhere here. So if I raise this to 55, let's say, so this is my 50. Okay, we are having 55 here. So if I just try to estimate 55 from here, somewhere around here, okay, you will see that it corresponds to somewhere around here. Okay, you can draw a point out of it, which is approximately 16-17% who have already died. Okay, which will automatically mean that the chances of you living is above 80, so around 84%. Okay, it can be 82 if you relate it to, but it very clearly does not look like 20, so therefore it will be greater than 80 for sure, because this is the percentage of people who are dying. So obviously the number of people living is greater than 80. Now therefore 55 will be my correct answer. Okay, the answer can be actually 15 or 35 also, because at 15 or 35, as you can look at the graph, very common sense that the percentage of people dying will be far lesser, and obviously therefore the percentage of people living will be greater than 80%. But the key word out here is maximum age. Okay, and because we are talking about maximum age, we'll have to start from the higher values. We had eliminated 80 and therefore we came to 55, and therefore 55 will be the correct answer. So the key to save time will be obviously eliminate one of the logical answers, and that cannot be the answer. You can look into the graph and can eliminate quickly. Sometimes it will be available in terms of, as you just saw, that the first blank actually almost gave away the second answer, that it cannot be 80. You have to understand the key words in the sentences and strategize. Should I start from the lower end of the option or the higher end of the option? Okay, and then work likewise. That will save your time. In the next two videos, we'll be talking about multi-source reasoning and data sufficiency, which also form a part of the data insight section. See you there.